Welcome back to the Real Estate 401k Show. I'm your host, Mike Weinstein, alongside Ryan Gerdes. Justin Frederick is on holiday.
Yeah, he's too busy doing Christmas parties and, being merry and probably some eggnog.
I don't know why you would want to go to another Christmas party instead of hanging out with us.
I don't know, dude. He's a busy guy. He's in high demand. I don't blame other people for wanting him around, but I feel like he'd have more fun with us.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, absolutely. Well, you're going to want to text the word trend to 623-AZ-RECON. That's trend to 623-AZ-RECON. All right, Ryan, we are in the middle of December 2025.
Full swing.
It's been an interesting year when it comes down to real estate, and it's interesting because you have different types of conversations with people just waiting because of interest rates, waiting because that they waiting for prices to come down, the market to crash, whatever the case is. And we've always had a saying that money never disappears, it just moves, meaning there's always opportunities. And I'm telling you, for our clients and our investors, it's been a pretty bang up year.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of cash, so we've learned a lot from this year. And quite frankly, if you've looked at some data from the past, there's a lot of redundancies here. We've seen a lot of repeats. We saw late November come, and now we're in the middle of December, and so we've seen certain audiences that have slowed down and certain audiences who have ramped up. Happens every single year. There's always those exception years when either the market is really, really high or the market's really, really low, where those aren't as predictable. But pretty much all those numbers are right there within the margins of what we've expected them to be. Again, we've seen a lot of cash transactions this past year. Because people just didn't want to pay those higher interest rates and take on that kind of debt. So they said, well, my savings account or the volatility of the stock market is just not where I want to park my cash, and so they've put it into real estate for a lot of good reasons, and it's been one of those where some people have gotten hurt. They got a little bit too far over their head. We've seen a pickup in defaults. We've seen a pickup in foreclosures. But on other instances, we've seen a lot of people make a lot of money.
Yeah.
And so it just goes back. I mean, you've heard us talk about it before. Build a system, build a model, stick to it. And if you do that and you play enough, it's like a casino, right? Like, I don't know what all the numbers are over in casinos because there's so much movement. But I mean, their margins.
I know that their numbers are always higher when I visit.
Right. Yeah. They're
the buffet I invest in, and the blackjack table, I might as well just hand them my money and go straight to the bar.
Well, they're smart in that they have multiple revenue streams, right? It's not just the blackjack table. It's not just the roulette. It's not just the hold'em. It's not just the slot machines. They have numbers of different ways in which they're creating revenue streams under the same building, albeit, but still, it's not like their odds are 90% to 10%. They're closer to like 60-40, and so it's that 40% that people go in there and they say, hey, look, I'll go ahead and put my money on the table, and I'll take a 40% chance at winning. When you are a real estate investor and you are dealing with and you are implementing the same systems and the same model that successful businesses are implementing, then you become the house. You become the one that's on the 60% advantage, and the other one's at the 40. It's just not letting pride or emotion get in the way of making those decisions and making sure that you have a good team behind you. I mean, you've probably heard the saying before: you can go fast alone, but you can go far with a team. So put those pieces on the chessboard together before you start making plays, and have a plan, and you're going to win. I don't care what kind of market it is, you're going to win. This one has just been more challenging for some people.
Yeah. Well, if you are looking for that team and you're looking for strategies and would love to have that conversation with our team, all you got to do is text the word trend to 623 AZ Recon. That's trend to 623 AZ Recon. One of the trends that I saw this year, just because we've worked with so many buyers, and it's going to be interesting to see how far into 2026 this strategy works. But we've talked a lot about interest rates. I mean, a year ago, rates were, point and a half higher than where they're at today. So they've definitely come down. But we've always, for the past year on the show, we've talked about just kind of pick your rate. And one of the positive trends we've seen is this ability, because the market's a little bit slow. Most houses are not priced properly. Sellers are just outpricing themselves, and so therefore the home sits on the market longer, and the sellers become a little bit more antsy, a little bit more desperate. And we've just seen this huge trend this year of 2025 of just leveraging that and getting sellers to pay concessions at the closing. And with those concessions, we've been able to cover a lot of the actual closing costs for buyers, but also buy down that rate. We have not had one buyer this year outside of a true investor or a jumbo product. We have not seen one buyer have an interest rate higher than 5.75% because of our strategies and leveraging it. And it's hard because I know so many people are just like, just rates are too high. Rates are too high. Rates, it's not a fixed thing. You can adjust them, and you can use money. And in the past, it's if you want a lower rate, you've got to cough up the money, and you've got to bring in the additional money. But in this market for 2025, it was the seller's money that we've been using.
So, we've talked about this before, but I want to reiterate, there's 4 pillars in which we make money in real estate. 1 is appreciation. Number 2 is mortgage buy-downs, generally from a tenant, from an investment approach. Number 3, the passive income that we receive from a tenant. And number 4, our tax advantages. Now, I want to talk about that a little bit because I feel like that's going to play a major role in what the trends are for 2026. We've already seen some investors start to liquidate a little bit of their portfolio. We've seen a lot of iBuyers exit the market almost completely. We've seen some of the very successful iBuyers scale way back. Open Doors not doing nearly as many transactions as they were 3 years ago. And so I think that we are going to see actually a surplus of inventory of those things coming on the market. Now, that's important to know because the amount of opportunities for people that need to rent or are in a transitional period, maybe they're moving out here and want to kind of, test the market out a little bit before they commit to a certain neighborhood or a certain school or whatever, they might rent for a year. So those folks are going to have less and less supply. And then it's going to probably go on for another year after that. And so those people that that bought strictly for passive income, they've felt that rental pressure. They are going to say, oh, well, my model no longer works. Or because, what I could rent for $2,000 a month, I'm only getting $1,800 a month now. They do yourself a favor. If you're one of those people, I'm not going to say liquidate. I am going to say reevaluate your model based on those 4 pillars. There's a lot of things that can and will happen that can make it so that you can make lemonade out of what you may consider a lemon. Because for me, I'm starting to already see, given some of these the aforementioned strategies that you discussed, Mike, along with savvy business models and investment models, that you are going to start seeing some more opportunities that you can purchase something that will actually have positive cash flow. We've talked about folks that are buying homes for their kids that are in college. Like what Christine and I are doing right now, we are getting a little bit more serious about finding a property that our daughter can move into and then rent out the other room to one of her college buddies, and being creative on that front. It's not going to take us a whole lot to furnish it. Let's be honest. We're not going to
in college.
We're not going to furnish with Pottery Barn, Ashley's Furniture, and whatnot.
Come on, man.
Nope. You're getting Goodwill and and Salvation Army type stuff, because I know how college kids treat their things, and so that's just one of many different ideas and opportunities that are out there, and so make sure that when you're reevaluating your investment model and what you're trying to do with your real estate portfolio, don't put yourself in a box, and make sure that you have ways that you can pivot.
Yeah.
That would be my biggest piece of advice for all of our investors that are approaching 2026.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I mean, we talk about it all the time, so it's second nature for us. As far as the four pillars of building wealth in real estate or on a property, because I find, especially new investors, I get it. Especially if you've never invested, if you've never had a rental property, it can be a little bit scary, especially if you do it alone.
Mm-hmm.
But it really changes your mindset, because the first thing that an investor looks at is cash flow. And
I would say a novice investor. I'll agree with you on a novice investor.
Novice, it's just all about cash flow.
Mm-hmm.
And if it doesn't cash flow, then I'm not interested in it. But your buy box grows exponentially. The opportunities grow exponentially when you understand that the cash flow is just one of the factors
passive income.
that go into it. And so it doesn't necessarily have to have a positive cash flow for you to make an incredible amount of money on a piece of property.
I know. I laugh my ass off at some of these people. They're boasting about making $500 a month on passive income off of a property, and they're like, so this thing's a honey hole. But then they're happy to sign a $30,000 IRS check over at the end of the year, and I'm like, man, there's more than one way to realize profits from real estate. Now, I'm not giving you tax advice, but I'm saying if you're writing massive checks over to Uncle Sam from the real estate that you own, you might want to reevaluate who you have in your cabinet, as we like to call it, and meaning the close people that have the biggest effect on your business. We've always been massive advocates for Cindy Dillard. She's been here on the show before. She's taught us a shit ton about how to be creative and strategic on how we can maximize our profits on all of our properties, because the other thing that you don't get to realize unless you take out HELOCs, which, depending on your risk adversity, you may not want to release that equity on a property until you sell it, because now you're not realizing your full appreciation on a HELOC, because you are paying interest on it, right? Just again, be ready to pivot. Be ready to embrace the changes that the market's going to throw at you, because we don't know. Something is going to happen. So just like something happened in 2025, so just like something happened in 2024. Every year, something happens that makes a market shift, and so long as you're excited about that and ready to learn, you're going to prosper.
I'm gonna do something I shouldn't do. I'm gonna try to do math on the fly here. Uh-oh. So let's just say, for example, we take a $350,000 property. Okay, and over the life of the loan, 360 payments, 30 years. Let's say that property does not go up in value. It just stays at $350,000. And I am in a situation where every single month I'm negative $200.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so it's not cash flowing. I'm just cutting a check, $200 every single month. Well, if you multiply that over 30 years, it's somewhere around $75,000 that you've.
So $200 times 2,400 times 30. So okay.
All right, so let's say it's about $75,000. Okay, seems like a lot of money. But if I have a renter in there for those 30 years, that $350,000 mortgage 30 years from now becomes zero. And so now I've invested $75,000 into a property.
More like 62.
Okay,
right?
no, just easy, Tiger.
Okay.
Easy. Don't make me get my calculator.
All right.
And now you got $350,000 worth of equity, and that's really how it works.
Mm-hmm.
And that's imagine if you had 10 of those.
Well, you make a great point, because there's so many people that I'm going to throw $500 a month into my pension or my 401k, and maybe you have an employer that's going to match you up to a certain amount. Okay, I'm behind on that. I can get behind something like that, but at the end of the day, you're putting yourself into something that is not nearly as it's not really one for one, right?
Right.
Like you're not you might be seeing $500 a month coming from your employer. Okay, that's 12,000, but then what is that growing at? Maybe a 5% year over year.
And in my analogy, in my example, I'm saying that property over that $350,000 property over 30 years doesn't appreciate, which is ludicrous.
Right, which is ludicrous, but then you still have an asset that's going to rent out for X amount. Let's call it $2,000 a month, and if it's not appreciating, I can almost guarantee you at least the rental rates are going up. Over that many years. So at that point, it just becomes all gravy, and then something that you can hand down to your kids, and with all the advantages that come along with real estate, it makes it easier to make it a less taxable event.
Well, that's what we do here at the Real Estate 401k Group. And as real estate wealth managers, we'd love to have the opportunity to sit down with you and talk about strategies and talk about your strategies and help you put yourself on the path to financial freedom through building wealth through real estate. All you got to do is text the word TREND to 623 AZ Recon. That's TREND to 623 AZ Recon.